The barn. Used to process and house the bounty of the land, its dominating, weathered architecture was created solely as a working building. From the beginning of the human race's agrarian history, barns built from a variety of different materials and designs have been found occupying vast acres of tillage, hillsides, and clearings. Built of timbers felled from the land around it, the barn is wedded to the earth through centuries of agricultural husbandry. If you look beyond the vast suburban sprawl, which covers much of what we lovingly call our Garden State, you will still be able to find small scenic backroads following rolling streams through dense woods. Along these roads, amongst some of New Jersey's finest backdrops, you can find the agricultural and architectural wonder that is a barn. These buildings were essential to the development of our region, and their rigid structures continue to stand strong as a testament to the men who built them well over a century ago. The barns found in New Jersey employ many different styles of barn building, each and every frame unique to local design. The New Jersey Barn Company's Elric Endersby is a specialist on barns who speaks throughout the region.
New Jersey was settled not only by the English, but by the Dutch and by French Huguenots and other people who brought their distinct framing traditions to this area.
Endersby believes that this melting pot of cultures, along with the massive amount of labor needed to raise a barn, help facilitate an exchange of building techniques found in New Jersey's barns.
Just about the time of the Revolution, we wind up having structures in New Jersey which are no longer solely Dutch or English or German. They are New Jersey hybrid forms.
It's these structures that Endersby and his partners at the New Jersey Barn Company have been trying to save and document for the past 25 years.
With every barn that we lose, and we're losing thousands of them to development, it's possible that one of those that we've never seen represents something which was practiced at some point, something which was developed, and which, if we don't witness it and record it and try and save it, will be gone forever, and nobody will have any record of the fact that it ever existed.
This disregard for these engineering and architectural masterpieces enabled the New Jersey Barn Company to fill a niche, dismantling, repairing, and reconstructing barns. They've had the opportunity to move almost 130 buildings, disassembling them completely. In many cases, taking apart joints that were assembled by hand over 150 years ago.
If the building has no possibility of surviving on its original location, we will move in, we will document the frame itself, give every framing member a designation, strip the roof, strip the siding, get it back down to the timber frame, and then we disassemble the building.
If a frame cannot be saved, they will photograph, measure, and make scale drawings labeling each beam. Over 1,500 of these records will document a period of timber framing unique to New Jersey. This timber framing was an art of necessity that came from a long lineage of traditions and skill sets. Some of the largest wooden frame barns still standing are nearly a millennium old.
The first large barns, the earliest ones which survive, are the Cistercian. They were enormous tithe barns at a time when all the farmers were required to turn over not just a tenth of their income, but a tenth, since their income was grain, a tenth of their grain to the church. So there are these enormous grain barns in Europe which were used that way. The yeoman class eventually developed smaller barns for their own purposes. That was true both in England and on the continent, and many of their barns survive as well.
These timber frame structures were not only owned by, but represented the hardship the common man went through every day. Stylistic aspects of timber framing in New Jersey were not only a direct result of the mixed cultures, but also a number of factors that faced the people who chose to settle here. By the time of the discovery of the New World, most forests in Europe had been being depleted for hundreds of years. This led to a lack of long, straight timbers for building barns. During this time, techniques were developed that would supplement this problem, such as the use of curved beams in barn frames, now known as cruck construction. However, when the ships made landfall in what would become the northeastern United States, they were greeted by forests of hardwoods that had been growing untouched for hundreds of years. These timbers were ideal for building barns and allowed for longer spans and sturdier barns. These longer and sturdier barns were of extreme importance to the settlers that were building them. With their former homes an ocean away, they needed to live off an undeveloped and unknown land, dependent on what they could provide for themselves.
It's said that in many instances settlers built their barns before they built their houses, at least their formal houses. Unlike England, which is actually closer to the Gulf Stream than we, here in the New World, we had much more severe winters, particularly in the 18th century.
Not only were the settlers who came here seeking a better life, they were seeking something of their own. The barns they built and the communities they formed developed into a nation now known for its melting pot of cultures, a nation that is now old enough to be forgetting its past. These buildings that sustained harsh winters and supplied our ancestors with food are being reborn today as unique homes. The dramatic warm beams and the massive structure of the barn are creating spaces, although new, offer a look back at the past.
People are beginning to recognize the fact that these buildings are remarkable in many ways, but they're also extremely adaptable. We have done a number of them as houses, but we've also done them for a number of other purposes as well, including museums now, and we've taken them far afield.
It was not long before the expansion of our country led to the decline of the barn in New Jersey. With the addition of the railroad system at the turn of the century, Western expansion became prominent and our country began to industrialize. These train routes and inventions created goods that would soon diminish the style and later use of New Jersey's barns. Much of the lumber used in new construction began to be shipped from the newly settled West. In addition to this, the milling of timbers began a new style of construction at a time when our state was becoming an industrial stronghold. Today our state is going through yet another change. This change is threatening the life of timber frame barns as well as agriculture in New Jersey.
I don't think there's any stopping development in New Jersey. Our so-called world headquarters here served initially as a tavern in the early part of the 18th century. The road we were on was a drover's road. Before that, it was an Indian trail. Now it's a 4-lane highway. And that's true throughout New Jersey.
Development in New Jersey is surely on the rise, and it may not be long until the landmarks of our past vanish. It's a sad sight to see something built by hand that stood for so long being flagrantly demolished, which is commonly the case with these buildings. But of course, progression leads to redevelopment. It's something that we all must understand. Hopefully, this redevelopment will be respectful of our past and bring awareness. With this awareness, people will hopefully recognize that our agrarian past holds things that are no longer tangible for many people. Things that, unless we remember them, will disappear forever.